back.
household.
Beyond the Beltway.
That was also your
Welcome back.
It's totally my choice, but I also choose to work to.
We are having just a tremendous discussion this evening, both on and off the air. And Alexandra, you usually during the break you will say something, and everybody will just jump and get all involved. And so we're going to ask you. You were making a very impassioned plea about women and what they're paid, and that they are undervalued and underpaid, and the other guests on this program, our other male guests on this program, they were challenging your point. So make your initial point, and then we're going to hear from the guys.
Ultimately, women are not paid the same for the same role as men are, and it's not fair. Women deserve to get paid the same amount that men do. And earlier what I was saying is women during childbearing years are judged more than anyone else, and even if you don't have children, you never want them. As a woman, you are constantly judged, and I happen to be a woman in childbearing years who has 4 kids. I want more kids. I work. I love working. I have a successful business. However, it doesn't matter if I had kids or not. I'm judged, and my ability to climb the totem pole is hindered because people do not give me access to jobs or women access to jobs because of the potential for them to have children. And at the end of the day, that's unacceptable. We as a culture need to change that. It is unfair to judge women because of their potential to have children and what that means. And you described it perfectly. In your family, you chose for your wife not to work. And ultimately,
We chose.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Correct. Both of you as a couple made that decision. And some families do make that decision, others do not. But the concern of employers for women leaving the workplace, that's why they don't allow women to go up the totem pole in the workplace.
There's just simply there is no economic
data
evidence
at
to
all.
support the position.
Zero.
The economists do something. When we do a study, it's called controlling for other factors. You can't say, for example, that I make a certain amount, I make $100,000 and a student makes $20,000. They can't be the same. You have to control for the fact that I'm 63 and they're 20 and they have no education
And you have a lot
I
of
have
education,
a PhD.
right.
So we control for it. When you control for all these things between men and women, almost the entire difference in the salaries between men and women disappear. There might be 1 to 2%, which is unexplained. Now, unexplained means it could be discrimination, it could be something else in the measurement process. But your statement that men and women are paid different amounts for exactly the same jobs is simply incorrect. If it were also true, if the relative price of women was lower than men,
everybody would hire women.
All the men would hire the women because we're not stupid.
Of course.
We of course would go to what has the lower relative price, assuming, of course, that the quality is identical.
Plus, they're much easier on the eyes.
Oh my God.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
That just trigger you by saying women
completely
are more
inappropriate
attractive than
and
men?
totally a part of the problem.
Oh, God.
Well,
And
I'm going to let you
I want
speak
you to
because I
understand.
think that you had noted that you don't have children.
Let me
and
disclose that one more thing.
say it again for those that didn't hear it.
Yes.
Because women are much easier on the eyes than men.
Yeah.
All right, Amara.
I don't have children. I, over the course of my career, and just in looking at this landscape, I have a sister, a twin actually, who does have 3 children. Obviously same age, PhD, whatever, working. But what the evidence has shown, at least from our experience and from research that I've read, is that when you compare women in the same category, that they do get paid less. Now, and that's not even controlling for race, that's not controlling for things like race, gender, all of these kind of characteristics are taken into account when salaries are being determined.
It's
hard for me to believe that a woman of the same educational level, the same experience level, compared to a man is being paid the same. And what you said earlier is that part of that lower wage is because women will take off time for maternity leave, or they'll take off time. But even that, to me, there's something to be said about believing that women should be paid less because they might take maternity leave.
No one believes that.
But that's the reality. You're
also assuming that they're going to take time off.
There's just no data. And listen, in the last recession, every business owner in this country was looking to cut corners. Anything they could during the Great Recession, right? Don't you think one of those brilliant business owners would have thought, hey, if I fire all the men and just hire a bunch of women, I'm going to save tons of money.
Here's,
There's
sadly,
no
I know men business
behind
owners
it.
that have done that. They actually have several women working for them because it costs them less. And I'm appalled that they've shared this data with me. It happens.
It is illegal to pay women
It's totally
less
illegal.
than men.
But it's also completely insane to say that
So
women
let's
are more
turn in your
attractive on the
friends who,
eye.
who fired all the men and hired women.
That's
If
not,
it's
that's
hyperbolic
like,
nonsense.
cannot be
illegal,
considered
I-
in
who
the.
are
This
these
is
people?
nonsense.
I just want to add,
Yeah, Mike,
Amara,
no.
you made excellent points, but you see what you did is your analysis was very broad in the sense that you talked about classes of workers. You have to control for that. So you almost have to have a PhD who is a woman in sociology at the same kind of college or university. If you have a man and a woman, they're paid differently, then we have a problem. That's something. But when you even have classes of women with a certain education and so forth, men inherently, just the nature of the labor market, take, for example, the most dangerous jobs. Men, so they might have exactly the same education as a woman, but they're the ones out on the fishing trawlers, they're the farmers, they're the roustabouts pulling the oil out of the
Welders.
ground, and all these people taking very dangerous jobs. If you were to look at just their education and their sex and then compare it to how much money they're making, oh my gosh, the guy's making more money. It's because you've not narrowed the control group down to far enough
Exactly
that
right.
you compare me to you, a woman and a guy, and as long as we have exactly the same job, roughly, even if it's at different universities or something, then we could say there's a problem if we are paid differently. I know that my women colleagues and I are not paid differently. We're paid just about the same, and those of us who paid more, it could have something to do with maybe.
And
we
are you a
published
union
more.
worker? Or,
I am not.
You're
We are
not.
not
Okay, I know
union.
you said you were a professor. Okay.
Yeah, but not union.
There would be a government task force right now out to investigate all of these employers who are firing all the men and hiring women because it is illegal to do so. Illegal in this country to do so, number one. Number two, there is no empirical data anywhere that shows that it's true when you control for those kind of factors.
In the
The
state
people
of
doing this
Illinois,
are
Alexandra?
women.
in the state of Illinois, there was an attempt by the Democrats to create a law and get a bill passed that would allow for corporations to be investigated on what the wages were that they were paying people, male and female, for the same roles. And that bill could not pass because Republicans were so anti. And I thought it was very interesting that Republicans were anti and that they did not want to see if these large corporations were paying fair wages. And I don't want to make it a Republican-Democrat thing, but at the end of the day, the vast majority of the business owners are Republicans, and they're trying to protect their own wealth. And I think it's interesting that they don't want us to really see what wages that they're paying to the people, and if they want to hide that.
Is that why
and
Hillary
I
Clinton
work
paid
with
her-
women
paid
every
her
day.
female staffers less than she paid her male staffers, Hillary Clinton?
But I think this is a legitimate point.
I mean, is
because
that
even
why?
here-
Can you
Well,
explain that?
let's get a response
Why
to that. Go
why did Hillary Clinton pay her female staffers less than her men?
I'm not aware of that.
Would
I've
she
never
do
heard
that?
of that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I mean, she's
I
the
can't
fighter
speak to
for
that 'cause I've
women's
never heard
rights,
of that.
Hillary Clinton.
It's true.
Yeah,
Because
so-
it's not true. That's the point. It's
But I-
not
but
a
I
real
think there is a
situation.
legitimate point to be brought up when it concerns wages. I mean, here in Chicago, we've had a huge issue with corporations not paying wages and wage theft actually taking place. And because there are no regulations or at least some oversight to make sure that they're paying even what the existing minimum wage is, you do have companies that are taking advantage of that and workers who are not getting paid what they should be getting.
Should
That's
large
illegal.
companies that leave other cities and come to Chicago and create jobs here, should they get any favoritism at all by the city or the county if they choose to pay their employees a little bit less? Not below the minimum wage, if they choose to pay them a little bit less.
I don't think that that you can say that. I think that part of the attraction to locating in Chicago, if you are a large company and you need a skilled workforce, is your ability to get access to a skilled workforce and to get the kind of workers that can help your business profit. So I don't think if you can find that workforce here, then what's the incentive to pay them less than what they're worth?
No, you're right.
That's true.
That is probably the only advantage of being in Chicago.
Yeah.
Is the workforce. Everything else about
a
the
vibrant
state
market.
is a disaster.
And it's our biggest incentive, because if you look at regulations and taxes and things, that can drive them away. But if we do create or have the kind of workforce that is attractive to them, then they don't really have an incentive to underpay.
It is interesting as well that you mentioned about the government didn't want to look into these data. This study about the Seattle minimum wage, you know who actually is behind that? The government itself of Seattle said, we want the University of Washington economists to look at this particular. They were convinced that it was going to come out just fine. And unfortunately, of course, it did exactly what demand curves are downward sloping, and the number of jobs declined, and income per month even though the minimum wage was higher, the average person, because they had fewer hours, took home fewer dollars per month.
And a lot of people lost their
It just-
jobs.
you
I
cannot
will say though,
repeal
you
the
know, and
laws of
ultimately,
economics.
and I go back to healthcare on this, and you know, we talked about what can we fix in the healthcare bill. We're watching, and I know Steve, I'm sure you're in the same boat. I have employers that either are stunting their growth or specifically not letting people be full time in order to.
Absolutely. Thanks,
not have
Obamacare.
to-
Thank you.
At the end of the day, though, and I don't know if you provide, and I own my business and I provide health care to my staff, and it's something that we do, you know, with a smile on our face, the thing that we want to do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we provide it to only full timers, and you can do it for part timers, and we choose to, and that's something that we want to do. And so I think that when we talk about these stunted growths and whatnot, we really have to look at all the factors that are coming into play. And it's my understanding in Seattle that they were looking at some down growth factors in general, and the less hours and whatnot. It's also that they're getting taxed. And it's when you make more, you get taxed more, and so there's a lot of factors that
The
came
only
into
way
play
to
on
tell
it.
then would be to look at the counties which surround Seattle and see
Yeah.
if it's just a Seattle-related thing.
I don't think they did that in the study, though.
My understanding is that the effects in Seattle, in fact, are specifically Seattle, which makes it clear that it is because of the law, not because it's something going on in the community as a whole.
But it's not even isolated to Seattle. In every circumstance, when you raise the minimum wage, people suffer. People lose their jobs in order for that business owner to be able to maintain the ever higher and higher increasing minimum wage for a smaller and smaller number of employees. It's just the way it works.
And when you look at the employees on the minimum wage, I believe it's something around 85% or 24 or under. And of that, a very large percentage have no high school. They don't have a high school education.
It's the lowest skill and the
So
lowest
you,
education.
it's not, are there, I'm sure there are single mothers who have children, that work the minimum wage. There have got to be some, I'm positive. But that is not the average person there. Somebody from, did you say you're from Wilmette?
I grew up in
Upper-
Chicago, and I
okay.
recently moved to Wilmette with my
Okay, so
family.
you've
We've
Correct.
got to pause. 1-800-723-8029. I'm Bruce Dumont, back with calls and more conversation when we roll on from Chicago.